So after another big weekend in the Championship, we've got plenty to talk over today. Let's jump into it all. Guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. This weekend in the Championship certainly didn't disappoint. Loads of talking points to go through today. As always, I want to get your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. If you went to a game this weekend or watched any of them, what are your current thoughts on your club? Get them down below. As always, if we get 300 likes, that would be massively appreciated. As well as that, the updated Prediction League standings will be going up on the community tab, so make sure to keep an eye out for that during the week. But without any further ado, let's talk about these matches. And so there's only one place to start out on the Friday night, the battle of the top two. This game did not disappoint in terms of the tempo and intensity and actual quality that was on show in this game. It's no surprise to see why these two are so cemented as the top two in the table at this point, because yeah, there was some serious quality that was on show in this game. Bournemouth certainly had their moments, but Fulham were looking really good going forward. Maybe didn't always have that clinical edge that we've seen about them so far this season throughout the whole 90, but a lot of that was on Bournemouth being really good at the back. That double block by Steve Cook in the first half and blocking two shots with his chest, putting his body on the line, was absolutely fantastic. Obviously Bournemouth eventually take the lead with that brilliant goal from kickoff right into the second half. From that point onwards, it's then Fulham who are doing a lot of the plug-in going forward in the final third, but once again Bournemouth standing strong for a lot of it. Travers makes a fantastic save to deny Mitrovic his goal in the second half. One player from Fulham's point of view though that not only impressed me in this game, but so far this season has been Neeskens Cabano. I think that in years gone by with Fulham in the Championship and the sort of past promotions, he's always been a sort of good impact player who would, you know, come in every now and again, you know, he'd pop up with a match winner every once in a while. But this season, I think, is the most consistent we've ever seen him. And once again in this game, I thought it was really good in terms of those direct runs that he makes, the spaces and the chances that he makes. Eventually, Fulham get the goal and the equaliser, which was deserved. You know, the amount of pressure that they put that Bournemouth back line under. Great ball in from Tom Kearney into Tosin Adarabioyo, and he gets the equaliser, and it finishes as a 1-1 draw. So nothing to separate the top two in this one. I think in terms of chances created and stuff like that, you'd probably give the edge to Fulham in this one, but neither side can really complain at a point. They are by far, I think, the best two sides in the league, and that quality was on show in this game. Next up then to the Saturday early kickoff, we had West Brom finally getting back to winning ways with a 2-1 away victory over Coventry. Much needed for the Baggies in this one. First half performance in particular, I thought that West Brom were looking a lot better. Seemed to get the press spot on in that first 45 minutes, and Coventry couldn't quite deal with that. First goal was absolutely lovely. Nice ball from Callum Robinson into Colin Grant, and Colin Grant in those one-on-one situations, you know, if you put him in those areas, he will hit the back of the net more regularly than not. Second goal, there was quite a bit of fortune about it. I think it's fair to say with the ball coming in off Kipru's hand. We had almost an identical goal sort of going in when Preston played Fulham last weekend. So this sort of thing is becoming more and more of a regular occurrence in that sort of debate around VAR in the Championship. I think he's getting louder and louder as more of these decisions start to crop up. Second half, I thought that Coventry definitely improved, and West Brom were happy to sort of sit on it a little bit. They did make it a little bit harder than it probably needed to be with that second half. Obviously McFadzean getting that goal in the 83rd minute, and with Coventry having a decent record at getting back into games when they do fall behind, we thought that maybe there could still be something in this one, but West Brom held out for all 3 points in the end, and yeah, much needed for them after that recent run they've been on. Next then we go to Barnsley up against Huddersfield, a point which doesn't really do all too much in terms of, you know, catapulting Barnsley to safety, but in terms of performance levels, it did look a lot better from this one. And if this is going to be, you know, the proper start under Poyo Esparghi now, we'll see where they are in a couple months' time, and if they can continue to improve at this, you know, current trajectory, and whether or not that will actually be enough to keep them up this season. Huddersfield certainly had their moments in the first half, and probably should have had more than the one goal that they went on to score. Their goal actually comes from a Barnsley mistake, them giving it away in midfield. Lewis O'Brien finishing that, who was probably Huddersfield's best player throughout the afternoon in this one, but Barnsley get back into it just before half time. Nice ball chip through from Helik into Carlton Morris, and a cultured finish from him. Carlton Morris definitely been a player who Barnsley have been missing so far this season, but just ghosts into that far post unmarked, and then a nice finish. Second half, energy levels seemed to dip from both teams, and there weren't really as many sort of clear-cut chances or moments in and around the box. books. But yeah, for Barnsley, obviously back-to-back draws. It's just a question of, you know, where is that next win going to come from? Because it needs to be sooner rather than later. But in terms of performance levels, it did look a lot better here, to be fair to them. After that, we go to Ewood Park, where it was Blackburn who got the better of Preston North End in this one. In terms of the overall 90 minutes, I didn't think there was loads in the match, but Blackburn in the end had that moment of quality from Brereton, and that in the end being enough to go on and win this game. The conditions for this one certainly didn't help it in terms of, you know, the pitch quality, the ball getting stuck up with all the rain that had fell and stuff like that, particularly in the first half. I thought that had quite the influence on the game, but Preston were really quite shoddy for this one once again. To have just one shot on target in this game, something that's become a sort of regular occurrence now in a lot of our away matches, particularly with us not creating a lot of clear-cut chances, and even the shot on target that we had was a half chance at best from Ched Evans. Fantastic take though for the Brereton goal. Rises above Liam Lindsay as he sort of cuts across him to get that in with his head, and he could have had a second not too long after that as well. He had Jordan Story on toast as he put the ball through his legs, and that Daniel Iveson popped up with the save to keep North End in it. The frustrating point from North End's point of view probably being the penalty, which I did think we should have been awarded. I think that in the Premier League with VAR, that does get given for handball, and maybe we steal a point from that point onwards, but ultimately it's the same mistakes that we're falling into, the same frustrations are there with the fan base at the moment. I think in the end everyone's just come away from a North End point of view feeling a bit sort of glum, and it's a situation of sort of as we were going into it beforehand. So yeah, worrying times for North End at the moment, but good 3 points there for Blackburn. Next then to Bloomfield Road, and Luton getting back to winning ways with a 3-0 win in this one. Now, we said in the preview coming into this game that both sides could really do with 3 points in this one. Both teams were having a little bit of a slide off in form coming into this one, and Luton definitely coming out of it as the benefactor. It was a decent enough start by Blackpool, but that classic scenario of you know, a fast start from the home team who ends up not taking their chances, and Luton snatch one just before half time. I did think that Maxwell could have done better with a couple of the goals for me, particularly the first one where he sort of left in no man's land and Blackpool failed to properly pick up Sonny Bradley, who's always going to be a threat from set piece situations, standing at, what is he, like 6'5", 6'6". So yeah, a little bit sloppy from that one. A similar occurrence with the second goal as well, and then the third obviously comes in the 90th minute to rub salt into the wounds. But a good afternoon overall from Luton, who, like I say, really needed that 3 points. For Blackpool, they're having quite the slide off after this one in form. That's now 6 without a win, although I do think that they've got a couple of decent fixtures coming up next, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they can bounce back in either of those. Next then to Bristol City up against Derby. Bristol City really turned their home form around as of late. Another win for them in this one at Ashton Gate, and it was a great finish in the end, and the only goal of the game comes to Scott, who takes it brilliantly on his left foot, absolutely smashes it in. In that first half, Bristol City had chances to kill it off, you know, get that second goal and go into the second half a lot more comfortable than they ended up being. I'm sure there were quite a few sort of twitchy Bristol City fans in that second half, particularly with how a lot of their other home matches have gone. You know, a flurry of Derby chances towards the end, I'm sure would have got the Bristol City fans on edge, but Derby didn't quite have that quality to carry into the second half. They had a lot of the ball in that second half, but nothing really all too penetrating apart from a couple sort of pop shots here and there and things like that. So yeah, good win there for Bristol City. Derby just stuck in a little bit of a rut here. Next then, and to Cardiff, where we had Sheffield United walking away with another 3 points, back-to-back wins for Paul Heckingbottom since being given the job at Bramall Lane, and yeah, a good 3 points at that. Cardiff got themselves into a decent enough position leading at half-time, but the second half was a real flip of the script, and Morrison takes the red card for bringing down Billy Sharp as he's racing through on goal, and after that it's just, you know, Sheffield United raining down chances on this Cardiff City defence. If it wasn't for Alex Smithies having quite a reasonable game actually in this one, despite conceding 3, it could have been oh so many more. The first goal really well taken by Morgan Gibbs-White, who once again stole the show in this one. We picked him out as a key player for Sheffield United last week when he didn't get any goal contributions. This time got 3 in this game. Takes his goal brilliantly, sets up the next 2 for Sharp and McGoldrick. Billy Sharp moving 1 goal closer as well to that championship all-time record goal scorer. Cardiff pulled one back, but in the end that was always going to be a consolation goal, and yeah, another impressive showing from Sheffield United in that second half. They're creating a lot more now, playing with a lot more tempo tempo in the final third, which is nice to see. Next up then to the Riverside, and a good win for Middlesbrough in this one as they saw off Swansea by 1-0. Isaiah Jones' goal in the first half being the difference between the two teams in this one. Really well taken goal as well, some lovely footwork by Sol Bamba at the back, spreads the ball on that right hand side, Jones latches onto it really well, and then he slots in at the near post. Now the big decision comes towards the end of that first half when Jamie Patterson goes down in the box. The referee doesn't give a penalty, instead he books him for diving. Now when I initially saw it, the sort of main camera angle, I thought that the referee got this one wrong. I thought it looked like a penalty. However, when you see the angle from behind the goal, I think I did a flip in my opinion on it, and I do think that the referee got this one spot on. I think that Patterson's massively looking for it, and he definitely sort of slows down to leave his leg in, and then the goalkeeper sort of pulls out of the situation. There might have been the sort of minutest bit of contact, but certainly not enough for a penalty. And yeah, I'm inclined to agree with the referee in that sort of decision. We give referees a lot of stick, so when they do get a decision like that right, it's only fair that we sort of give them a little bit of praise for it. But yeah, it'd be interesting to know if any Swansea fans think differently. Second half, Swansea looked to improve a little bit. Perot probably had the best chance to get them back into it. Goes around the goalkeeper, but Paddy McNair with a fantastic clearance off the goal line is enough to secure all 3 points for Middlesbrough. So yeah, good 3 points there, but the penalty was definitely the biggest talking point from this one. Next up then, and to a 4-goal thriller at the Den. It's not all too often that we're saying that, but really good stuff here from Millwall, and much improved from what we've seen from them recently. I think they were coming into this game on the back of 3 draws and a loss, so 4 without a win, and yeah, much better in terms of their final product and what they were doing in and around the box. I think they had 9 shots on target for this game, which is as many as they've had in their last 3 home matches combined, so much more of a threat in the final third. Those set pieces coming into the box were causing all sorts of problems, and for Birmingham, while they did have their moments on the ball, off it looked like Millwall got the better of them. You know, you could tell that they were very much missing someone, probably like a Ryan Woods, who would have been useful in this sort of game, sort of with that running power off the ball and in those areas in midfield that seemingly where they got a little bit bullied and overrun in those situations. 2-goal lead at half time. Deeney gives Birmingham the hope of getting back into it with a fantastic finish. Lovely little link up with a flick to Hogan and then the poking finish to make it 2-1, but Evans wraps it up with a fantastic finish of his own, and much deserved here for Millwall, who look really good and just 4 points off the playoffs now. Next up, and to the City Ground, where we had Forest beating Peterborough by 2-0, and this is becoming, I'm sure, all too much of a familiar feeling now for Peterborough fans. It was a decent enough first half. They probably even went ahead and edged that one. Forest hadn't quite clicked up into gear in that first 45 minutes. Peterborough had the better chances. Once again, I thought that Dembele was probably looking like their best player, and certainly their most threatening in terms of creating chances for others. But second half, Forest came out like a new team, and they got the goals to go ahead and wrap it up in the end. Could have probably had more than the 2 goals they went on to get in this one. Garner with the first one. Lewis Grabban almost messes this one up, but it falls to Garner behind him, who pokes it in. Yates then grabs the second, and the second half looked fairly comfortable for Nottingham Forest, apart from that chance Peterborough had, which came off the post. It's another frustrating week here for Peterborough, I'm sure. Next up then we go to Reading up against Hull, this one finishing as a 1-1 draw. Obviously both teams find themselves at the moment outside of the bottom 3, but some controversial decisions made in this game, I think it's fair to say. Two both brilliant and bizarre goals scored in this one. The opener by Holmes was, I didn't know he had that in his locker, but technically absolutely a worldie of a finish. Overhead kick makes it 1-0 Reading going into half time. Wilkes then gets Hull back into proceedings with a strike from outside the box, albeit Southwood has a bit of a howler with this one, and that certainly wasn't the end of the luck that Hull were going to get on this trip to Reading. Couple of big penalty shouts in the second half, both committed by Dishon Bernard as well. First one, he lunges in for a tackle where I think that one's a penalty, and the second one is quite an obvious handball, but also isn't given as a penalty. So those fine margins can make absolutely all the difference for, clubs like Reading and Hull, who are just above the relegation zone at the moment. So I'm sure after a couple of those decisions in the second half, Reading fans were left quite frustrated at the end of this one. And then as our last game to go over, we had Stoke getting back to winning ways as they saw off QPR by 2-0. Didn't see this one coming heading into the weekend. Stoke were coming off the back of 2 quite disappointing results and performances. falling to 1-0 losses in each of them, but much better in this one in terms of their final product and overall play. Vrancic was absolutely fantastic in his role for both the goals. The ball through for Campbell for the first one was absolutely fantastic, and the second one, which he obviously takes in the second half himself. In terms of QPR, I didn't actually think that they were that bad for this game. Defensively, they left a couple of holes in that back line, particularly for that first goal when I think they were caught a little bit too high up the pitch and by Campbell's pace. But in terms of actually creating chances for themselves in the final third, they created plenty in this one. Obviously, they had the golden opportunity to get back into the game. Vrancic, who was so instrumental in the final third for Stoke, gave away the penalty. Austin had that chance, couldn't convert it, and that really summed up QPR's afternoon because they had plenty of other chances as well coming in from open play, but just wasn't to be their day. Stoke right back in the playoff picture now, and this seems to be the reason why, you know, Fulham and Bournemouth are just pulling clear at the top, because no one else really in that playoff picture at the moment has a great level of consistency about them. But guys, there we have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. If you did go on to enjoy it, make sure to leave a like. In terms of my goal of the weekend, plenty of contenders for this one, but I think I'm going to have to give it to Dom Solanke. That goal from kickoff against a side as good as Fulham was just absolutely magnificent how they cut through them. And then in terms of my result of the weekend, I'm going to give that to Luton for beating Blackpool by 3-0. Much needed result for Luton after their recent run of form. That will now wrap it up for today's video though, guys, so if you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and do stick around and subscribe for some regular Championship content. But other than that, thanks for tuning in, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.